Hello, my name is Jessica. I'm a senior in the BA Ed program at UMass Lowell, and today I'm going to be talking about how to use choice boards in the classroom. This is just a brief overview of my presentation. We'll be talking about what is a choice board, how to make one, and some different types of boards, and then I'll be showing some examples before reviewing the pros and cons of this teaching tool. First of all, what is a choice board? I'm sure that many of you have heard of stations. Stations are very common in the elementary classroom, especially in the younger grades. Choice boards are like self-paced stations. They're often done independently, but they can also be completed in small groups. There are many styles of boards that we'll cover today, and many that we won't even get to because there's so many different kinds. But typical choice boards have a grid or table of different activities and assignments for students to choose from. They can be a creative and engaging way for teachers to share content with their students. Choice boards are powerful tools that can be used to engage students with all kinds of learning styles. Teachers can add choices that can cater to visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners all in one lesson. This makes choice boards a great tool for differentiating instruction as well as extremely versatile, and can easily be adapted for special education settings. Besides being a versatile tool for teachers, it creates an exciting lesson for students. Choice boards allow students the opportunity to control their own learning. Giving students the freedom to choose their work helps to promote active learning. Choice boards don't have one specific look. Creative teachers can make and share boards with others using familiar programs such as Google Docs or Slides. Or if your school uses specific programs, they can be adapted to almost any format. Other programs include Seesaw, Pear Deck, and Buncee. Choice boards can be used for specific subjects and review of units for tests, or across subjects for a day's worth of lesson planning on one board. This is all great, but how do we use these in the classroom? How do we make one? My advice for making your own choice boards is to definitely start simple. I've made a few choice boards on Google Docs, and they were small boards about 2 by 3. Even starting with a 1 by 3 grid will allow students a choice and get them excited about learning while helping to build your experience with creating these boards. This was actually my first choice board. It's a very simple 1 by 2 grid. Even simple boards like this can be fun and interesting if you add color and images. My favorite ways to add visual interest to a board is to embed links into photos and words. So here on this board, I've added links into the word here for the audiobook and this word here for the worksheet. That could be printed or it could be filled in on the doc here. If I were to do this board again, I might have even added the link into the image with an instruction to click on the image rather than putting the link into the description. When you're sharing these kinds of boards with students, it's important to remember to share a link that allows the student to be a viewer of the content, unless you want them to be able to edit their own. For example, if they were going to be filling in this worksheet and you wanted them to do it online, you could share it with them on Google Classroom as a forced copy so they each got their own copy of the choice board and they can fill in their own worksheet. Otherwise, if the board is just being shared with them, it can be sent to them as a viewer and they can click on the links, but they can't change any of the content in the board itself. There are many different ways to use choice boards. This is a list of the most common types that I've found, but the options are really endless. I'm going to share a few types of these boards. Here are some examples of choice boards that I've made or found from other teachers online. First, we have a board that was made on Buncee. I've never used a board on this program before, but I have tried making some. This seems to be a great tool if you were really into making choice boards because it seems to be exactly what this program is for. There are templates, or you can start from scratch to make any kind of board that you can think of. This is an example of a morning work choice board. It looks like students would choose a choice every day as morning activities. Similar to Buncee, Seesaw is a program that teachers can use to create very detailed boards. Seesaw is a great program because students can be assigned boards or other assignments. This is an amazing board about dinosaurs. I imagine this would be a great tool during virtual learning. Students would be able to explore this board and all of its links in order to learn about dinosaurs at their own pace. Google Docs is an easy tool and a familiar program, which is why it is my go-to for making choice boards. I use this review board the day before a geography test. It has one block for instruction at the top, 3 blocks for review quizzes that I've made on Google Form, and 2 blocks for other choices where I've added links. These are links to BrainPop videos and a link to Google Earth, since the kids were really interested in maps at the time. I encourage students to practice the review quizzes until they had a perfect score. My students loved this board even though it's simple and were asking if they could do it again. This could have also been used as a study tool at home since it was on Google Classroom. Similar to Docs, Slide is a familiar and user-friendly tool that is perfect for creating boards. This is a self-paced chemistry lab board where students get to choose the experiments that they want to learn about and have a few options for assessment. This would have been a great lesson plan for virtual learning or could be used in a classroom as independent or small group work. Other types of choice boards include restaurant-style boards. Students would choose one option from each menu course. This source looks like it can also be printed out, so students can complete the assignments online or on paper. This is the type of tic-tac-toe board. In this case, it's a multi-subject board, including math, reading, and coding. This board was created on Google Slides and would allow students to choose which activities they would like to do. This last choice board is a branching slide deck. Students click on the number and they are brought to that number slide. So for example, if I click on this 3, it'll bring me to slide number 3 with that activity. And then I can click back to home and it'll bring me right back to the numbers. And then if I want to click on number 5, and then it'll give me this little video to watch. When I'm done watching that video, I go back to home and pick the next activity. Those were all examples of really great detailed choice boards, but it can be just as good to keep them simple. This is a board that I used in my classroom on a half day. In this case, there were a lot of students that were out the week before and they were needing some time to catch up. Of course, that was a week that ended a bunch of units and they were taking tests and writing final drafts, and 5 of my 20 students were out for like 3 days. They were all sick. I made this choice board as a way for students to see their options for the day. Once they completed all of the activities that applied to them in the must do section, then they were allowed to move on to the may do choices. Although I do enjoy sharing the boards that I've made on Google Docs with my students, these are the types of boards that realistically I usually use mostly every week. I projected this slide on the whiteboard for the day, but I have also written lists out with the marker on the whiteboard in a pinch. And these types of choice boards work amazingly. They allow students to see what they need to get done and then that they have the options to choose what they want to do. And even though they have to get these activities done, they can choose which. In summary, I think that the pros of learning to use choice boards far outweigh the cons. The main cons are the time that it takes to get used to this tool, learning to make them and learning to implement them can be a definite adjustment. They can also be inaccessible for students or schools that don't have many or any computers, but as we saw, there are ways to use choice boards for an entire class with only one or a few computers to share. The main pro to choice boards is that they're very versatile. They can be used for small groups or independent learning. They can be used in school or at home. They can be made physical or digital. The versatility allows teachers to differentiate learning with one tool. The other main pro is that choice boards are engaging for any age level because they allow for choice. In public schools, most students are told what to do all day long, which is necessary for some learning, but allowing freedom to choose which activity a student can do for the day, or even one subject, can be really exciting and engaging. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you learned something new and that you try to use choice boards in your classroom.